The Source Engine. There are two things about this engine that everyone agrees on.
On one hand, it is the engine that has powered some of the most beloved games of all time, even if the majority of the games using it were developed in-house by Valve. And on the other hand, it somehow manages to be deeply unsettling at times. Yeah. It's generally agreed by the community that despite some of the holy cinema that is spawned from this engine, it somehow manages to invoke feelings of creepiness that cannot be explained otherwise. There's a few examples of this, such as the Ravenholm chapter of Half-Life 2, where the action that took place earlier takes a backseat to focus on your own struggle to survive in this zombie-infested town. Then you've got the entirety of the original Portal, where the feeling of loneliness sets in as you realize that, aside from the insane AI present in the facility, there's not a single human being actually present. Unless you play the RTX remaster, which just instantly ruins the immersion thanks to the change in art style and overly glossy lighting produced by the path tracing. God, this shit looks awful. And finally, Garry's Mod, and by extension, every single Source Engine multiplayer game ever made, where despite loading into a map fully aware that there isn't a single player on it, you still feel like you're constantly being watched, whether you like it or not. Oh, come on! So when you combine each and every single one of those aspects of those games and create a game that makes use of these aspects running under the same engine as the other games, that will make certainly for a brilliant idea, right? And by God, you won't be wrong. Nightmare House 2 is a total conversion source mod released in 2010, and it's by far my favorite source mod ever made. It takes every single aspect that makes Source Engine games so unsettling and cranks it up to 11. It's a short experience, only about 2 hours of playtime if you know what you're doing, but absolutely none of that playtime feels like a waste of time or dragged out. And the best part about it is that it's completely free to play. Yes, you can play the mod for free by obtaining it on Steam, which has been recently released as a slightly updated version under the name Nightmare House, the original mod, which is a bit misleading, but okay. In fact, I highly recommend everyone to play this game right now, as this video will go into spoiler territory, so if you haven't played it yet, do it now. It is, after all, a free game. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the horror that awaits us in Nightmare House 2. Before I jump straight into Nightmare House 2 immediately, I think it's very important to understand that we first take a look at where it all started, but also the people who made it. Nightmare House 2 was developed by a small indie game studio by the name of We Create Stuff in 2010. Now that name sounds oddly familiar. Where have I heard that before? Oh my god. Yes, they're the same people that brought you the Portal Flash version Flash game, which is known as a Flash game that somehow managed to change the course of trajectory that the sequel to Portal will take. Now this sounds completely insane, and to be fair, it kind of is, but long story short, apparently the Flash game was so incredibly popular that when the Portal mapping tools came out, one of the guys who worked on the Flash game remade the entire Flash version in 3D and released it as a map pack for the original Portal. Valve took notice and asked the developers if they could use their map pack in an up-and-coming Xbox 360 exclusive port of Portal that would include some of the maps from a map pack as additional content. And the director of Portal 2 at the time was apparently so inspired by the unlimited possibilities of a Portal mechanic introduced in set maps that it resulted in the sequel becoming the game we know today. Now, everything I said was just an abridged version of a story, but yes, without the indirect involvement of We Create Stuff, Portal 2 may or may not have been a completely different game at the time, which is just complete bonkers to think about. If you want a more accurate version of a whole story, I highly recommend you to check out this video by Ossy Flawol, which goes much deeper into this particular topic, as this video is, you know, focused on a completely different project. Anyways, I had to go a little off topic there because the same guy who made the map pack for Portal is the same one who brought you a little map pack for Half-Life 2 called Nightmare House. Yes, the Nightmare House series originally had its start as a small single-player map pack for Half-Life 2 before it became its more own standalone thing with the sequel Nightmare House 2. As for its development, I can't really find much information other than the fact that development started around in 2007 and was finally completed in 2010. The only thing people got, aside from the usual trailers and media showcases, was a demo of sorts, in the form of a remake of the original Nightmare House that was then later included as a prologue chapter in Nightmare House 2. Since it's already included, I'll just play the version from a newly released Steam version of Nightmare House 2, as well as the original HL2 map pack, which, yes, is surprisingly still very much around. The map pack is alright when you take it under the lens of a one-man project made during 2005 mapping standards. There are some pretty creative scares here and there with some combat involved, and that's it. In fact, the only enemies you'll encounter in this map pack are zombies and an overabundance of headcrabs, which are by far the absolute worst enemies in this whole experience, especially the poisonous ones. The remake version, on the other hand, blows the original map pack out of the water in every single aspect. The difference in quality between the original version and the remade version is just night and day here. The layout of the original has been kept mostly intact, while heavily improved upon in quality and detail, and offers surprisingly a lot more than the original, despite being condensed into a single map. To add on top of that, there's absolutely no headcrabs this time, just regular-ass zombies, so that single change easily makes the remake a far superior experience than the original. The remake also adds a bit of a narrative this time around, since, you know, it's important for contextual reasons for the sequel that is about to start after it. It starts off with us, the main character, crashing our car into a tree that is next to this unsuspectingly large house that's just hidden in plain sight in a forest. And like any other smart horror game protagonist ever, we break inside of it where man-made horrors beyond our comprehension await us. Things like paranormal activity, the dead rising again, you know, the usual stuff. It's also here that we are introduced to the supernatural being that haunts this very same abandoned house, Emily. She will appear throughout the entire game and scare the player every now and then, although if I had to be honest, I dislike that the very first time and throughout basically the entirety of this map, we only get to see her via jump scares, which is not great. In fact, I'm just gonna be very brutally honest with you, I think jump scares just suck in general. They tend to be the easiest and fastest way to get a reaction out of a player instead of scaring the player by building tension in the right way. In Nightmare House's defense, it works a little better here because it doesn't throw a creepy JPEG of Emily and play an obnoxiously loud sound to scare the player, and this was far before the absolute king of video game jump scares came out, but yeah, it's still not very good, to be honest. You also may have noticed that there's a lot of shooting going on in the footage I'm showing here. In fact, aside from the axe you pick up in the shack, you'll pick up a pistol, a revolver, and a shotgun in this level, which makes up more than half of a game's inventory. As much as I'd like to talk about each weapon in detail right now, I'll have to save that for when we encounter the same weapons later in the main game, because they'll all be taken away from you at the end of this prologue. Because just like in the original HL2 map hack, it ends with a jump scare again before fading to black. Just get over with. Hello. So overall, the original Nightmare House map hack is fine, and the remake is vastly superior in almost every single way if you ignore the overabundance of jump scares included in the remake. Personally, I will give the map hack a 5 out of 10, and the remake a 7.5 out of 10. Now, with the original out of the way, about fucking time, Jesus Christ, let's dive into the nightmarish experience that awaits us in Nightmare House 2.
Same as it always was, isn't it? The mind just keeps sending you back again, It's interesting how you can find comfort in any familiar situation, even a familiar nightmare. Wake up. It's time for the real nightmare to begin.
Chapter 1 starts off with a main character waking up inside a padded cell with no clue where exactly we are right now. The door is conveniently unlocked, so we take a few steps outside and... yeah, on second thoughts, I'll just go back to the padded cell again, actually. That sounds far better than dealing with this garbage right here. As much as I would like to continue rotting in the padded cell, we have no choice but to keep going, only to have a gate conveniently close in front of us as the area lockdown is initiated. Here we get a glimpse of where exactly we have been located. Never Lose Hope Hospital. What kind of name is Never Lose Hope Hospital anyway? It sounds like a rejected place where a Danganronpa game will take place in. Jesus Christ. Regardless, we make our way to the only other path we can go to for now and enter a control room to shut down the area lockdown and reopen the gates. Here we find some comfort in knowing that we're not the only ones alive in this hellhole.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes, I'm talking to you. Look, if you want to get out of here, then do exactly as I say. I know you have a lot of questions, but for now it's absolutely vital that you get here as quickly as you can. First, we're going to need to get you armed. Head to the cafeteria, then to the kitchen. You'll find a surprise waiting for you there. You'll need it.
Oh no. Whoever the guy on the other side off the radio was, he sure knows a few things about this place better than we do. So with no other choices, we pretty much follow what he has to say while being constantly watched by the supernatural being that is with us here, and go to the kitchen next to the cafeteria and find said surprise that the voice on the radio mentioned. One thing that I need to get out of the way is that the environmental design of the whole mod is fantastic. Granted, this is due to the fact that they slightly updated the maps for the 2024 release of it, but by God is it incredible nonetheless. It's so good that you could easily gaslight me into thinking that these are maps made by some level designers over at Valve, and I will absolutely believe you. We make our way into the kitchen and we are greeted with a dead body with an axe on it. Taking the axe and trying to go through the very door we just came out, it confirms one thing. This hospital is just as infested with zombies as the house.
I see you found my axe. God knows how it found its way out here, but you should consider it a blessing.
Alright, listen to me, pal. I may be stupid, but you're not fooling anyone here when you say that your axe just started walking on its own and killed a few zombies on its way to the kitchen. At least he's kind enough to unlock the doors for us so we can continue our way through the hospital. We go inside one of the back areas, which leads us to an air vent, which breaks halfway through and brings us next to a security checkpoint. Ooh, spooky. Followed by a room with elevators leading up in a security room. Inside of said security room is an emergency box with a pistol in it, which we can easily get by simply swinging our axe at the glass. Now, why on earth a hospital will keep a pistol inside a breakable glass box is beyond me. I assume it's safe for the patients inside the hospital who are about to escape after taking a single look at the hospital bill. It's here where we finally get to meet the man who has been talking to us through the radio this whole time. Dr. Romero. Yes, he is named after the co-creator of Doom as well as the filmmaker George A. Romero, since apparently Dr. Romero's first name is George. He reveals to us that both of us are the only ones left alive inside the hospital and that help is on its way, but before he can finish the sentence, we're being interrupted.
I've heard that they're sending him. God damn it, I'm losing you. Look, I'll explain everything when you get to me. I'm unlocking the elevator doors for you. Just keep advancing.
Ooh boy. Two things I want to mention, one being the fact that this is technically the closest we have been face to face with Emily, even though we can't make her face because our flashlights suddenly stopped working here. And secondly, and this is probably something I should have mentioned a lot sooner, but this scare is very reminiscent of another one from a game called Fear, which is not only the absolute pinnacle of peak gaming by the way, but also has a very similar scare where Alma, the creepy ghost girl that also follows you around and just watches you from behind the windows next to elevators, like, this is almost the exact same thing one-to-one. In fact, there's a few parallels that can be drawn between Nightmare House 2 and Fear, along with a moment from another game from the same dev, but I'll get into that later. Although that's gonna hurt, trust me guys. I'm actually shocked that the elevator's still working in this place by some miracle. Oh, Jesus Christ! Yeah, okay. Fun fact, if you destroy the elevator shaft and time your jump just as the elevator reaches the top floor, the game will not only applaud you for your nice acrobatic skills, it will also reward you with a JPEG of a guy giving you a thumbs up. Interesting thing to note is that this is a drawing off the creator of the original Nightmare House and level designer of Nightmare House 2, Hen Mazalski. And for the longest time, I thought this was just a really late 2000s internet meme that the creators put in the game because they thought it was so funny. So I apologize to Hen for thinking he's a meme this whole time. Anyway, exiting the elevators and leaving the storage area brings us to an area that now looks a lot more like an actual hospital, and it's been left in an incredibly horrible state. Dead bodies and zombies everywhere with blood all over floors and walls and a lot of places just barricaded. Whatever happened in this hospital, something went clearly wrong in here. We also briefly meet Dr. Romero on one of the monitors again.
There you are. I'm seeing you on the camera. I only have limited access to the security channels around here, but I'll do my best to keep track of where you are. Hold on, let me get those doors open. Alright, keep moving ahead and try to ignore the mess.
With a door he opened in question leading us to the radiology department. Since I got both of them at the end of the last chapter, I might as well just talk about the weapons we currently have, both being the axe and the pistol. I'll just go ahead and say that the axe is vastly superior to the pistol on any given day off a week. The swing attack is so incredibly powerful, it genuinely baffles me that I haven't used it sooner throughout the entirety of the mod. As for the pistol, it is pretty alright. It does a decent amount of damage and there's plenty of ammo for it throughout the entire game, but it feels a lot weaker than the powerhouse that is the alternate attack of the axe. It is far from the worst weapon in the game ever, that is entirely for sure, but yeah, the axe just clears the whole game, or at least most of it. Anyways, heading further into the radiology department, there are two separate rooms with MRI scanners in each one of them, one of which is completely shut down, and the only way we can get to work again is if we just steal this fuse from the one scanner that's still working, fought a bunch of zombies that just randomly spawn out of nowhere, and put the fuse in the fuse box that's still working. Strong magnetic field, huh? I wonder what they meant by this. Oh shit. Being this hospital's janitor must fucking suck, dude. Getting out of the hole that was created from the explosion inside of a scanner leads us back to the general area of the hospital in which... oh, God.
Maybe I wasn't clear enough when I said that you and I were alone here. What I really should have said was that you and I are the only ones left.
Oh really, George? I think this is an information I could have absolutely used a lot fucking sooner. It's interesting to point out that Romero never really reveals exactly just what the hell happened inside the hospital, despite him being the only other survivor in it. He only casually mentions that everything went to hell and never elaborates on that further ever again. Not that it matters anyways. We kill a few zombies and make our way to the newly opened door, but before we can even go through there, a strange feeling occurs. Our vision suddenly becomes very blurry. The main door that was just behind us suddenly disappears and the hallway suddenly stretches out of nowhere. What the hell is going on here? After a long walk, we finally reach the doors on the other side of the hallway, and as if anticipating our arrival, they open by themselves. We keep walking and see a figure. The figure seems vaguely familiar, but before we can find out who it is, we fall. What an absolute terrifying experience that was. It goes without saying, but the horror aspect of Nightmare House 2 is completely top-notch. It's precisely moments like this that make you question your sanity and if wandering around this hellhole off a hospital was a remotely good idea to begin with. We wake up again, but this time we have no idea how the hell we got here. It's only when the intercom rings again that we find out where we exactly are. The maintenance area.
Never Lose Hope Hospital does not allow patients and visitors into its maintenance sections. Please turn away now. Yes, I am talking about you.
I'm like, what do you say fuck me for?
After solving one of the single-handedly easiest puzzles in the game, which consists of shooting a red gas tank from the other side off a broken window in order to force open the doors and get inside, we are rewarded with a few things, including the revolver and seeing Romero on the monitor again. It's here that he reveals something very interesting.
Look, I know you can see her. She wants something from you. Just be careful.
He knows that we can see Emily. How the hell he could figure that out is completely beyond me, but yes, he is fully aware of her presence. At least he is still trying to help us find a way out of here, so he suggests that we shall just go to the laundry room and go behind the last washing machine because there's an air vent leading out of here. Fun fact, if you head out of a room and go to the laundry room, then head back... Oh. Right, I have to talk about the system that is very unique to Nightmare House 2 called the Auto Scare System, or also known as... Very nice acronym, guys. I'm sure you're very proud of it. Anyway, the system basically allows the game to just play a bunch of automated scares that play randomly to just catch a player off guard. This can range from that thing from earlier where Emily's silhouette appears in front of a player to whispering in the player's ears, to the player getting slapped, to the subtitles going absolutely crazy, and so on. There's no specific requirements to get any of these, it's just another way of the developer trolling the player. Anyways, if you go to the laundry room and then go back to the monitor that Romero was talking to, he will try to tell you where to go again. And if you do it a few times, he'll just tell you this.
What are you doing? You think if you just hang out for a while, I'm going to present you with an Easter egg? No, get out of there.
Anyways, entering the vent will lead us to the other side off a corridor which was blocked by debris. At the end of it is a gate that can't be fully opened because the power goes out at the exact same time. The only way to get it working again is to go through the door next to the gate downstairs and get the generator working again. And as with the MRI scanner from a previous chapter, we need to find some fuses and place them in a fuse box to get it working again. You can also find some flares in this room that you can use to light up the room if you feel like it. It feels a bit pointless to use them now that you have a fully functional flashlight since chapter 1, so like, what's the point? Anyway, get the generator working again, open the... Alright. This is a guard zombie, a zombie variant that is heavily armored and therefore much harder to take down. Now, why the hell an armored zombie is in a hospital to begin with is completely beyond me and it looks very out of place, but whatever. The guard zombies are reskins off of Zombines from Half-Life 2 Episode 1, only without the grenades. And the easiest way to deal with these guys is just to take out your axe and do the heavy swing attack 3 times. It's really not worth wasting your bullets on this guy, especially with a newly acquired revolver. Speaking of which, the revolver is actually a pretty decent weapon that I have heavily underestimated at first. It has the capabilities of one-shotting every single generic zombies with a shot to the head, which is great, although that being said, I still vastly prefer the axe because that alternate attack is just so damn good, man. Anyway, open the gates, go through the right door and get hit by something out of nowhere, then reach what I assume is a service tunnel. I'm honestly not sure what to call it, excuse my English. It is surprisingly the most moody area in this chapter, if that makes sense. There's nothing remotely super scary going on here, except for a body showing up at the end, but whatever. It's only after we leave a service tunnel that the shit starts to hit the fan again. Oh god, no, not that strange feeling from a previous chapter again. Please, anything but that. Everything just feels incredibly wrong. There's a light coming from the air vents, and that seems to be the only way we can go. Snap back to reality. It appears as if we're back inside the service tunnel again, judging from the textures used here. So, I guess the only way we can go to is up ahead. Except the door won't open up for some reason. Okay, that's a little weird, but at least we can go back to the beginning, and... where's the door that used to be there? Oh god, the other door just disappeared as well. Why does the hallway keep getting smaller and smaller? What is happening? Oh my god, the hallway is getting so incredibly small now. She's right above me, isn't she? Spine chilling. The help that Dr. Romero has been talking about at the end of Chapter 1 has finally arrived. After all the horrors the player has been through, there's finally a glimpse of hope that soon this nightmare will be ending. But before that happens... oh boy, more man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Luckily, these shadowy figures don't actually do anything, they just stand there and look scary, although standing on them will inflict damage to the player. Interestingly, on closer inspection, they look like hospital staff, as if the remaining souls of the staff are roaming the corridors of a stand hospital, trapped forever in this endless cycle of hell. Fun fact, kind of. There is actually an Easter egg that is no longer present in this version of Nightmare House 2 or the 2015 version. The 1.0 release of the game has a room that you can enter, which by itself is very unsuspecting, but if you remove a pallet here and repeatedly press a button... this is such a 2010s game. This is a reference to an event that can occur in the RPG Maker indie game Humaniki. Now, I really hope I don't have to explain what the hell Humaniki is, but long story short, it's an adventure game where you explore the dreams of a main character. There are random events that can happen in the game, and one of them happens to be exactly that. As for why the Easter egg was removed in later versions, it's probably due to copyright-related issues. This isn't the only Easter egg that was removed from the game, by the way, because in the original there was a map that was only accessible via console commands, and...
look at my horse is amazing, give it a lick.
Anyways, we're headed for the surgery department and it's incredibly dark in here. Like, holy shit, someone please change the light bulbs in this place already. At least the flashlight is very much capable enough to help us go through this incredibly dark area of a hospital. Although that doesn't make the game any less scary because there are a lot of moments in this that make me want to turn around and walk away. Including the air vents. Oh boy. So this particular part starts off with... okay, never mind, I think I'll play something else. Then you get to the room where the air vent is, and it looks really disgusting, and I really don't want to go in there. But we have no choice. You go in and you see the bloody remains of something lying around before it surprises you by throwing the zombie in out of nowhere. You think it's over because right after that you see a group of armed men rushing inside the hospital, and you think, oh my god, this is finally going to be over. Thank God. So you go further down into the vent and suddenly there's a dead end. Oh no, what have I got myself into this time around? What is happening in these vents now? Please just make it stop already. Please make it stop. Just please let me out of here already. I want to go home. Please. I can't take any of this anymore. Just please. Please let me leave. Just please. Please. Here we're finally introduced to a whole new group of human characters, the SWAT team. This is the help that Dr. Romero mentioned at the beginning of the game.
I don't know who you are or why you're here, but there's no time for introductions. We're on a search and destroy mission. Join us and maybe we'll all have a chance of getting out of here in one piece.
He says he and his squad are on a search and destroy mission, huh? Very interesting. It's this part off a chapter where the game slowly but surely begins to shift its focus away from horror to action. Now, that doesn't mean that the horror stops right away. Oh, don't worry, because there's a lot more than what I've just shown you in this video. But the change in tone is very noticeable in this part. It's just 4 guys, including you, fighting an onslaught of zombies coming at all of you with submachine guns and shotguns at your defenses. Oddly enough, the game feels a lot safer than it did before, now that there's a whole group of people who are essentially helping you killing these brain-dead corpses. Unfortunately, that feeling of safety won't last for very long.
Where's Johnson? There's something around us.
This is where the game introduces a whole new type of enemy that's going to be pretty much present throughout the rest of the game. The creepers.
Oh man.
These guys are just reskins off of fast zombies from Half-Life 2. They function practically the same, where they'll lunge at you if you're far away from these guys, and they'll do quick melee hits if they're close to you. The easiest way to deal with these guys is... I mean, come on, if you've been watching this video throughout its entirety, you already know the pattern here. You'll also pick up a brand new weapon here, the UMP, and I'm just not gonna sugarcoat it, guys, the UMP just sucks. It's nothing against the actual weapon itself, because I like it in a lot of other games, but it just sucks in Nightmare House 2. Yes, there's plenty of ammo you can find for it, but the damage output is so low, it's honestly not even worth using it in the slightest. Regardless, as soon as you're swarmed by creepers, you all make a run for it, only to have the ground collapse underneath you, separating you from the SWAT team for the time being. And what follows is probably hands down my single-handedly favorite chapter off the entire game. The one thing I hope I convinced all of you while making this video is that Nightmare House 2, at least at its core, is scary. Sure, sometimes it's cheap with its scares, but scary nonetheless. The reason I say this is because Chapter 5 is where the horror aspect of this game is at its pinnacle. And what better way to showcase this by having this chapter start out by killing the one item you have been basically relying on throughout your whole journey. Yes, Chapter 5 somehow has the balls to just completely kill the flashlight for most of this chapter, and it's downright terrifying. Granted, it's not nearly as bad as I'm making it out to be, since you still have flares that you can pick up from these boxes that are scattered around this area, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still scary. The one item that you relied on the most to basically illuminate your way everywhere is just completely gone for the time being, and there's nothing you can do about it. It makes you feel really powerless, and that's harrowing. It's very reminiscent of a moment to another free-to-play horror game by the name of Cry of Fear, which, look, I know the majority of you people saw that Pyrocynical video from like a few years ago, so like, this game isn't anything new. Thankfully, this section of a chapter isn't very long and doesn't last forever, because nothing compares to what comes after this. Why did I agree to making a video on this fucking game? At least we receive another call from Dr. Romero right after this. He knows that the help he mentioned from the beginning has finally arrived, but unfortunately he's not able to contact them at all due to the signals being blocked by the hospital's radio equipment. The only way to contact them is for the player to go to the radio room and turn off the equipment himself. In complete fairness to Romero, this actually sounds very easy because all we have to do is find a way to shut down the equipment and we can get the hell out of here. But before all of that, no boy, the mannequins. I despise the mannequins in every single way possible. The fact they somehow managed to be even creepier than the last horror segment is absolutely mind-blowing. Yes, the flashlight works again, which is great, but it really doesn't matter because despite the fact that the mannequins themselves are inanimate in the loosest sense of the word and don't harm a player in any malicious way, the fact that they're constantly teleporting around when the player looks away and that they just, exist in general, makes me feel extremely uneasy easy every single time I play this game. But you know what the absolute worst part about the mannequins are? Is the fact that the developers somehow managed to find a way to make them even scarier. Admittedly, this is a very late addition to the video that I'm adding because I only just discovered this, but when you reach this dark room here and then knock down all the mannequins inside, a hole will appear from one of the walls. Going inside the aforementioned hole will lead you into this game's one and only secret level named 41225. And you guessed it, it's all about the mannequin, and it's even worse. I won't give too much away because, again, I would rather have people experience it for themselves, so just download the mod if you haven't already, it's free. Overall, very creepy level, and you should absolutely play this for yourself because, Jesus Christ, I'm never gonna play this again. I already got the achievements for this mod, so I'm done. I'm done, man. Oh, and before I go any further, I might as well address the elephant in the room. This section was probably also heavily influenced by another moment in another game called Condemned Criminal Origins, which was also developed by Monolith, the developers behind Fear. The reason I mention this is because unfortunately, while I was still working on this video, the studio was recently shut down by Warner Brothers for the dumbest reasons on the planet. I felt it was only right to mention their closure here because it's very clear that without the influence Monolith had on the gaming industry at the time, we probably won't have seen any of it in any other game, and especially this game. That's all I wanted to add on this conversation. I only wanted to pay my respect to this studio that brought us some of the best games of all time, and screw WB. After leaving this section behind and dealing with some zombies and newly introduced creepy ones, we make our way to the aforementioned radio room, where Romero contacts us again, where he tells us to figure out how to turn off a console by ourselves. I mean, you could have left some suggestions on your own, you complete buffoon, but okay. It's really easy, just take one of the gas canisters, force it open with the axe, and throw it in this cage. We've now disabled the radio equipment, but now we really need to get out of here as the whole place is on fire. What follows is an escape sequence, and honestly, I have nothing a lot to complain about. It is pretty cool to add it in here. It heavily reminds me from that one level from the original Max Payne where you have to escape the restaurant that's been rigged with explosives and burning on your way out. Fantastic. But as soon as you think it's over, the chapter has one last trick up its sleeve. Again. Welcome back to hell. And guess what? You're going in the fucking morgue this time around. Hang on. That was Romero just now. What the hell? And is that supposed to be Emily? Absolutely spine-chilling. Fantastic stuff from this game. Remember how I said at the start of a previous chapter how this was the game's horror aspect at its absolute peak? That's because throughout the remainder of the last two chapters, which is this and the next one, it takes a major backseat and instead focuses on the action and story instead. While some people might think this is the worst thing you could ever do, I will argue instead that this is actually a good thing. It's very clear the game has shown every single thing that it's capable of doing with a source engine to ramp up attention, so now it instead focuses on wrapping up the story, because there's not a whole lot you can do much inside of an abandoned hospital. Now there is still some horror left inside these remaining two chapters, don't get me wrong, but it's clear that it has shown everything that it's capable of offering, and I am more than okay with the game wrapping up. Chapter 6 opens up with us waking up again, only this time it's the remaining SWAT team finding us. And apparently the trouble we went for Romero to destroy the radio equipment was worth it, because the chopper that is roaming around the hospital has finally managed to get in contact with us again, with a SWAT team commander requesting evac. Finally, after all this time, we're actually escaping the hospital. Thank the Lord. Before everyone heads out, if you actually wait a little bit before grabbing your weapons, this conversation happens.
You're just going to stay unarmed? What are you going to do? Kick everyone to death? We don't kick people to death in SWAT. kicking shit?
Well, you can always kick someone's head off and use his helmet for extra armor.
What?
There's also a variant of this conversation, but I couldn't get to trigger it, so I'm just gonna borrow this guy's footage.
You're talking about that new guy who works for Frank, right? Yeah, Jake something. What was it? Falcon Ground?
This is in reference to the main character Jacob Hawkfield from another source mod called Underhell, an infamously ambitious source mod that, while being excellent on its own right, is unfortunately doomed to never being finished. If you want to learn more about it, there's a great video made by this individual, and on top of that, Underhell itself is also a free mod too, so go check it out. Also, in the original 2010 version of the mod, the conversation was originally about Chuck Norris because 2010 video game.
You're just gonna stay unarmed? Who do you think you are, Chuck Norris? You know, I heard when Chuck Norris does a push-up, he isn't lifting himself up, he's pushing the earth down.
After grabbing our weapons, we're going through a door that leads us to the storage area, where on the other end of it awaits us a loading bay gate that we have to open in order to progress through the underground area of the hospital. Before we leave, however, if you stack some boxes right under this green container here, not only will you be greeted with another picture of God himself, but the game will also reward you with a secret shotgun. You're supposed to get this weapon in the next chapter, but like I said, it's also the last one in the game, and I'm absolutely not going to wait until the last chapter to talk about the best firearm in the game. It's not perfect, it does feel a tad bit weaker than the axe, but I don't care, it's genuinely my favorite weapon in the whole mod. It's easily capable of one-tapping zombies, as long as you're aiming the weapon point blank at their heads, and it makes the remaining 2 chapters a lot more fun to play through because it doesn't mean you have to consistently switch over to the best melee weapon in the game. Aside from that, there's not really that much to talk about in this chapter, I guess. There's this underground road that's infested with zombies that you and the SWAT have to take care of, followed by a locked door that you have to figure out a way to open yourself. It does lead to one of my favorite subtle scares in the game. It's one of those scares where you really have to pay attention to not miss it in the slightest. It's then followed up by another action sequence in this very dark and huge warehouse that's infested with more zombies that you have to escape from, and then after that comes one of my favorite moments in this whole chapter. One of the SWAT officers is clearly affected by something, but everyone assumes it's nothing to worry about since we're pretty much close to leaving this place anyway. We're then met with a closed gate, so the Alpha Squad leader sends us and another SWAT officer to turn on the power, but once we're back, we see that the SWAT officer who had a headache earlier had gone crazy and suddenly points his gun at the Alpha Squad leader.
You misled us. We're never going to get out of here because of you.
What in the world is he talking about? Calm down. We gotta do something.
An interesting detail here is that if you shoot the SWAT member before he finishes his speech, the Alpha Squad leader will scold the player for doing so instead of talking him down.
What are you doing? You could have talked him down.
But if we wait until he finishes his speech and then shoot him, the Alpha Squad leader will instead thank us for saving his life.
And now to extinguish the fires of hell, say goodbye. Help!
Oh shit! Shoot! Now!
That was a close one. Thanks. It's this place. Obviously the target is more powerful than we thought. We need to get out of here before things get any worse.
Yeah, about that, wasn't Romero supposed to be in on the whole escape thing too? Where the hell is he at? Not that it matters anymore because he's right. We have to get out of here because there are only 3 of us left and we've already lost 2 different people. What follows is fighting off more zombies in the underground, and despite us being a man less, we still have the upper hand, no thanks to our combined arsenal of weapons. And then, oh wait, did I say we're only 3 people now? About that.
1 second. I gotta catch my breath.
There's no time. We're almost at the evac point.
Holy shit! Hold on! No! Get it off me!
Time for yet another escape sequence, which isn't nearly as intense as the last one with all the fire, but still a very good escape sequence nonetheless. It's just only 2 people now, you and the SWAT team commander, both armed to the teeth. We finally make it to the helipad, and thank God, after all the horrible shit we went through, the whole nightmare is coming to an end.
This is Alpha. We're at the evac point. Repeat, we're at the evac point.
Roger that, Alpha. Stand by for pickup.
Man, I can't believe we're going to get out of the shithole.
This is Chopper. Prepare for landing.
Or so we thought. Despite the fact that the helicopter crashed inside and caused heavy amounts of damage, we somehow managed to survive it all. Because either the main character is built like a Chad or plot armor, I guess. Alpha Squad Leader, on the other hand, despite being more armored than the main character, isn't looking so hot. The situation is once again looking very hopeless. Our only way of escaping this place is basically gone, and now, once again, we're stuck in the shithole. But before breathing his last breath, Alpha Squad Leader has one last thing of importance to say to the main character.
Well, that sucks. I guess this is it for me. This mission went to hell real fast. This hospital, it's been abandoned for a while now. Some things happened here. People went missing. They just covered it all up. However, not so long ago, they detected something beneath the hospital. A pulse. And then it all became clear. We found that same signal in the past, in that old house in the woods up north. We know exactly who we're looking for. Only this time, he's got nowhere to run. My squad and I, we were sent here to track him down. The man responsible for all of this. His name is Dr. Romero. Find that asshole and waste him. Good luck.
What the fuck?
That's right, the one man responsible for this whole ordeal was none other than the man we trusted throughout our entire journey, Dr. Romero. And apparently he is well aware of what Alpha Squad Leader had to say because he relays a message to us as we head down the elevator.
I heard every word that man said. I am not a murderer. I have never intentionally killed anyone, and I don't plan on starting tonight. Therefore, I want to give you the chance to decide. In just a moment, this elevator is going to stop on the main level, directly next to the main entrance to the hospital. If you want to spare yourself, just leave me in this hospital alone. If you're bound and determined to find and kill me, though, just keep heading down the elevator. I won't stop you from coming. Just be warned, I will be forced to defend myself.
So we're left with only 2 choices: continue down the elevator and face Dr. Romero, or just get the fuck out of the hospital like we should have done in the first place. Like, come on, what is going to stop us from doing that, man? Like, we can just go and leave, you know, nothing's gonna stop us, you know. Oh, fuck!
No, 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 no. Wait. Wait.
Fatality.
Congratulations, by trying to leave the hospital, you have essentially earned yourself a bad ending off a game, which, in complete fairness, was a given. Emily did pretty much warn you to not go outside the hospital, so kind of deserved there, not gonna lie. And that means you have no other choice but to head down in case you want to achieve the good ending off a game. Well, actually, before we do that, one more fun fact, this is the last one I swear. If you brought Alpha Squad Leader's flashlight with you and brought it into this room inside of the reception area, it'll reveal another silhouetted figure. This is the announcer lady that we have been hearing throughout the game.
I do not wish for you to see me like this. Please leave now.
Turns out all of these automated messages were in fact not automated, which is not that shocking, all things considered. She also doesn't attack the player, so that's pretty cool, I guess. I guess you were kind of chill like that, announcer lady. With that out of the way, going down the elevator will take us to the hospital basement. Destroying the barricades and opening the door a few steps in front of us will reveal the place where Dr. Romero has been for God knows how long. There are a lot of interesting things in this place, including a PC with log entries that Romero has been writing, a framed picture whose implications don't look too good, my man, and finally a big button that, when pressed, opens the shutters and reveals the thing that Romero has dedicated most of his life to: the core. Now that we've reached this point of the game, I think it's time that I address one of the main things that needs to be addressed, which is Dr. Romero's backstory. In case it hasn't been obvious from all of the visions that the player will receive throughout the game, Dr. Romero used to be together with Emily, the ghost woman that has been essentially haunting us throughout the whole game. That has been kept mostly vague, but the framed picture in Romero's bedroom absolutely confirms this now. And if the other visions are anything to go by, it is implied that Emily has been unwillingly used as a test subject for Romero's core, the thing that he has been working on, which is probably the absolute dumbest thing you could ever do, which is to use your own wife as a live test subject. Instead of paying for the sins that he committed, he instead decides to run off over to Never Lose Hope Hospital like a little bitch and take shelter in it. It's right after his escape where the player enters the picture. The car crash outside of the house, if we know anything about Emily now, was most likely caused by herself on purpose so that she could have an actual human being to rely on to take revenge on Romero after what he did to her. After the abrupt end of Nightmare House 1, the player is then transferred to Never Lose Hope Hospital, where Romero states in his logs that he heard some rumors about somebody crashing their car near an abandoned house, which get him very concerned. During the player's stay in the hospital, completely unaware of what's happening around them, Romero continues to work on the core all the way up to a few months later, where Romero decides to test the core for phase 1 testing, which results in him committing accidental genocide upon everyone inside of a hospital. Yet despite his complete and embarrassing screw-up, he still decides to continue working on the core until it's ready for phase 2 testing, but explains inside of the log that he needs a live subject to test the core. It's here that he decides to wake the player up to do his deeds. It's also where he realizes that Emily, his wife whom he had killed several months earlier, is the one responsible for bringing the main character here so she can take her revenge on Romero. And to make matters worse, the help he thought was here to save both him and the player turned out to be a SWAT team sent to kill him. But thanks to the player destroying the radio equipment sometime later, he instead uses the now amplified core to take out the SWAT team and the player. But no matter how many times he tries, the player is still alive, and now knowing that Dr. Romero is responsible for pretty much everything, Romero tries to give him a choice that we, the main character, have made. Now chances are that there's going to be a big genius inside of a comment section going like, well, Dr. Romero did nothing inherently wrong, it was all accidental, and he killed his own wife and an entire hospital and a SWAT team and then tried to kill us for his own bidding. This device created by Romero has been responsible for everything awful that has happened in the game, and we have to destroy it. But before we get the chance to even do it, it comes to life.
This is the core, my life's long work. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's important to me, and I'll go as far as needed in order to achieve my goals. I've made some mistakes, sacrifices my loved one, and even I myself, but I have to continue. There is no turning back now. I'm afraid I can't let you interfere. It's protecting me, you see, keeping me safe from her. Therefore, I have to send a few friends to keep you company. Let's see how long you can last against them. That's always a great experiment.
The final boss of Nightmare House 2 is none other against Romero's core itself, and from a gameplay standpoint, it's pretty okay. It definitely has a feel off a Valve boss fight. All you have to do in this fight is turn off a generator here to lower the core's shields and destroy the planks that hold each of the 3 support beams that hold the core together. All the while the core spawns creepy zombies to defend itself inside of your head. Wait a minute, a machine that turns imaginations into reality? Is this thing secretly Noah MK2 from Chaos Head? This is literally Chaos Head all over again, dude. What the hell? With each destroyed beam being followed by the occasional hallucination. Nothing special, all things considered. The thing that saves this fight from being generic, however, is an aspect of a game that I deliberately left out for the whole video. The game's amazing soundtrack. I was going to spend a lot more time talking about the soundtrack, but I already spent way too much on this video already, so long story short, it's pretty good. The ambient tracks are great and fitting, the action-oriented tracks are memorable and absolutely kino, there's nothing much I can add on. As a quick side note, the soundtrack was composed by Aiden Ashuri and Yoav Landau, the latter of which you might recognize as the one and only founder of The Living Tombstone. Yup, before becoming famous from that one Five Nights at Freddy's fan song that made it into the credits of the official movie. Okay, that is actually pretty sick still, not gonna lie. He made a bit of a name for himself by doing some music for We Create Stuff all the way since the Portal Flash version map pack days. I'll leave a download link to the official soundtrack, which you can get from a ModDB page from Nightmare House 2. It's pretty good. With that out of the way, the main character destroys the last support beam, causing the core to collapse.
Well, what do you know? It's still operative. I guess I won.
Be careful what you wish for, fuckface.
Oh shit! Emily. Emily, my love, it worked. You're back. I'm sorry for everything that's happened. I'm sorry for everything I had to... No! No! Ah!
Listen, you're about to make a big mistake. The core, it's also...
Yeah, I can lie out of my ass too, buddy. That's not gonna work anymore. And with that out of the way, that was Nightmare House 2.
I mean, fire! Oh, what are you saying, bro? Like, yo, this is peak. This is peak. There's nothing that can be done here that can be improved on.
15 years later, and it's still one of the single-handedly best source mods I have ever played. Sure, it has a few issues here and there are definitely a few other source mods that have surpassed it in many other areas, but I still stand by what I said. Nightmare House 2 is an incredible game, and I highly recommend to everyone to go check it out. So, what are the people who made Nightmare House 2 up to after all these years? The good news is that they are actually still around, which is always great to hear, and they have since released a completely original horror game called In Sound Mind. I haven't played it yet, but judging from the footage I've seen of it, it gives off a lot of Nightmare House vibes, which is always great. And, speaking of which, right now they're actually working on a full-on reimagining of the original Nightmare House. And by reimagination, I absolutely mean it's exactly that, because it looks completely different from the original, which honestly, I totally welcome it. I do have a few issues personally, like I'm not entirely a big fan of a somewhat more cartoony art style, and the game running on Unreal Engine 5 is making me worry that it'll hold my poor RTX 3070 Ti hostage. But other than that, the game itself looks very interesting, and I'll absolutely look forward to playing it once it comes out. To top it all off, The Living Tombstone is once again doing the soundtrack for this, and the Nightmare House 2 leitmotif is on point in the trailer. I wish the folks over at We Create Stuff nothing but good luck on making this game. I definitely look forward to playing this once it comes out, provided that it doesn't turn my PC into a remote nuclear bomb. With that out of the way, if you watched until the very end of this video, I thank you for sticking around, and I hope to see you next time, and hopefully not make a video that takes this long to make. Jesus. But hey, I managed to pull through, so you know what, it's all good. I hope to make more freaking videos from now on that don't take as much as this one. I say this as the next video is probably going to come out 8 months from now on, lmao. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you around.